How lovely it is to see you. How are you today?
Excellent. Doing very well.
Fantastic. Larry, you always look great whenever I see you. So listen, I want to dive straight into your story because it's an incredible story. Why is it such a big challenge, would you say, to sail a boat around the world?
Whew. Okay. Well, first of all, to prove that, only about 60 people a year actually complete a circumnavigation. And
Wow.
so, I mean, hundreds climb Mount Everest. So it is a big challenge. And a lot of it is, I would say, weather is a big challenge, breakdowns, both physical on the boat, the engine, autopilot, whatever. Mental breakdowns like this is really, really difficult. I don't know if I can go on. Expense and time. You have to put all of those things together with knowledge and with not enough knowledge because nobody leaves the dock knowing everything they need to know to sail around the world. So you just go anyway. So that's kind of a big challenge as well.
Wow. Do you know, I had no idea it was only 60 people a year. It had never crossed my mind. Wow, that's amazing. And also, I can imagine that the preparation must be huge as well, as it is to climb Everest, but it must be really quite intense, the preparation.
It is. I think that I was preparing my whole life. I mean, I wanted to sail around the world ever since I was 13 years old when I first stepped foot in a little tiny sailboat. And that's just the ultimate sailing journey. Um, yeah, it's quite a challenge.
Wow, wow. So in the introduction and also when you speak, you tell us that there are similar traits required to succeed in business and to sail around the world. Can you share with me what some of those traits are?
Tenacity.
Mm,
Tenacity is a big one, and I've discovered that tenacity is best learned from practice. I don't think anybody is born having a ton of patience and tenacity. So patience, not something that used to be one of my strong suits, but when you're waiting 3 weeks for parts, sitting in an anchorage in Indonesia, just about to drag onto the rocks, and you have no engine, you learn to be patient. Um, Leadership, I learned a lot about leadership, and I speak a lot about that. Leadership, being a leader is different than being a boss.
mm.
And leadership is getting people to buy into your way of thinking and your project or whatever it is you're doing, rather than telling them what we're going to do. So, like with my partner, Ken, I had to be the leader, but we both needed to be doing basically leadership activities to keep the boat moving.
I can see all those parallels being really important. Actually, I'm not very patient, by the way, but
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I can see
Well,
those.
yeah.
Yeah, but yes, I can see that. So I can see that that would work very well. Brilliant. And so I imagine that audiences, business audiences, appreciate when you share your stories about sailing, and they recognize that's something that we have in business too. They recognize the parallels.
Absolutely. And I like to say that my traits and my theories of about these things are boardroom and ocean tested.
Yeah, yeah, because you've got
Yeah.
both. You've got the business experience too.
Yeah.
So
And I would
tell.
also, I was going to say one more thing, which is I would say that learning how to deal with fear is a
That's what
big
I was
one.
going to. I was going to ask you
Oh,
that because I'm petrified of water personally. I'm not a great swimmer. Obviously, you're a great swimmer. Otherwise, you wouldn't surely go out on a boat. But your first TED talk was actually called "Passion Trumps Fear." I mean, does it really? Can you really manage your fears because you're passionate about something?
you don't have any choice.
Okay.
So you either become brave or you turn around out there. I mean, it's just there is because we were. I would say that I was afraid. Let's see, only on days it ended in AY. I was afraid for 6 years,
Wow.
literally every day for 6 years, because you don't know what, I mean, whether it be weather, a breakdown, crew issues, not knowing the language, where we're going to anchor tonight, gee, I don't know, it's the right place. We don't speak the language. There's a lot to be afraid of. And there's 1,000 ways to die out there. So I learned that you can't just wish the fear away, and you can't, this is my theories of fear. Other people have other theories of fear. But I believe that in order to manage those fears, you have to embrace it. You have to recognize that you're afraid, and then you have to embrace it. And you have to actually just say, well, yes, I'm afraid. And you learn to live with that. And you realize that fear actually helps you in some ways. It keeps you sharp. It keeps you focused. And, it's kind of nature's way of making you focus on the task at hand. And so that's what I learned to do. I just learned to say, well, I'm afraid. Okay, so what? Keep going.
But yeah, wow. And I can see that parallel in business again. And certainly when there's so much uncertainty, so there's uncertainty out when you're in the ocean, you don't know what the weather's going to be. You don't know what the conditions are going to be. You don't know where, when you land, as you said, will you be understood? And it's the same in business. And we've been navigating through so much uncertainty recently. So the parallel is incredibly strong. A lot of fear for leaders at the moment and for people generally.
Yeah. Well, and the unknown is certainly fearful. It's also exciting. Not like the unknown with COVID. That's not exciting.
No,
that's just scary.
Yeah, we're not excited about that at all.
No.
Let's not mention that again, right? Let's leave that. We'll park that. We'll stay in the beautiful blue ocean instead. Oh my goodness! So you've also, as well as speaking and sailing and having been a successful businessman, you write as well. Tell me about some of the books you've written.
Yes, sure. It's funny. I happen to have them here.
You do. We can't see them on the podcast, so you're going to have to tell us what they're called.
Right. I'll just hold it up. No. Yeah. Well, the first one is The Boy Behind the Gate. And that's the story of my 6-year sailing journey around the world. And it's rather, I think, inspiring and motivating. I get at least an email a month, or used to be like emails every week, that people are saying, well, thanks, Larry, because of your book, I have now ... And I've gotten a divorce, I've gotten married, I've gone sailing, I've changed my career, and just giving people the strength to know that, hey, he did it, I can do it too. Because when I left, I didn't have any role models. I didn't have any models to look at to say, well, how do you just leave being an executive to go be a sailing bum? That loss of identity is a big aspect, a big change, a big transition. So anyway, that's what that book is. And then I wrote another one. Then I wrote a children's book of this. And this was just published last year.
Yeah.
It's this children's story of two boys sail around the world. It's called Let's Go. And it's for middle school, like about 8 to 12-year-olds. And it's really fun. That was fun to write. And then back to business is Navigating Entrepreneurship, 11 Proven Keys to Success. And in all of these books, there are lessons. For the children's book especially, I wanted to focus on friendship and trust and taking care of each other, and honesty, and also the fear factor, and trying to teach kids good traits as they're growing up. And there's lessons in the entrepreneurship book, and in the other book, again, learn from being at sea, and something as simple as pulling into an anchorage, and you realize that all the other boats are anchored over on that side of the anchorage, and you think you want to anchor here. You better stop and think, why are the boats anchored over there? Well, you look around and you look at the wind and the shore and where you are in position to it, and you realize, well, this is a fine place to be anchored. I don't know what's the matter with them. And then if you carry that thought further, you say, but wait a minute, what could the wind be? Maybe they know something I don't know. You turn on the weather forecast and you realize the wind's about to change. And that's why they're over there. So it's digging deep and investigating, and it's all, whether it's business or sailing, it's the same.
Fantastic. And tell me a little bit, because you touched on the fact that you gave up a successful business career to go sailing. I mean, that must have taken some courage in itself to do that. Was there any fear related to that, or were you certain with that decision?
Whew. I was certain of the decision, and it was scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I left everything. I left my career that I'd spent 20 years building. I was in the events planning business. So
So you understand what's been going on for all of us
I
in that business
understand.
this year, yeah.
I understand that business. I've hired a lot of speakers in my life. Yes. And most of our business was international, and I had traveled, all around the world. I left my income and went from pretty good to zero in a day. My security. And when I say that, I like to, that's like having a car in your driveway or the local grocer knowing your name, that's security. And I left my home, I left my partner, and I left my identity,
Mm.
who I was. I mean, going from executive, CEO of a company, and then all of a sudden I'm out. It was a challenge. It really was. I mean, there I was going CEO, and now I'm singing, Margaritaville.
I think Margaritaville sounds quite nice, actually.
Well, the
Especially
margaritas helped with the transition. I will say that.
fantastic. That's amazing. That's amazing. So, when you're invited to speak by clients at events, at conferences, or internally, what are the topics that they ask you to talk about?
One of the most popular is kind of like what I did with my first TED talk, about passion, living with passion, and unshackling yourself from what other people are telling you to do, living on your own terms. Leadership is a big one, of course, and I do workshops on leadership. I love talking about leadership. I love explaining how being a leader is not telling. It's more like selling. Selling your point of view. And now the big subject is growing fast is transition into retirement
Oh,
and
that's interesting.
redefining what retirement really is.
Mm.
In the United States, there are 10,000 new retirees every single day, and there will
Wow.
be for about the next 10 years or so. And that's a lot of people retiring who are going from, I mean, if you're president of a company and then all of a sudden you're retiring, it's pretty hard to go from being president to tending your roses in one day. So there's a transition process, and I do a lot of coaching with clients, and a lot with executives and executives in the C-suite, because my opinion is that the higher you were in your career, the harder you fall in transition. And so it's finding the encore, someone's encore. What are they doing next? What are they going to be doing after they retire? And what does retirement look like for them? Retirement, as we think of it, is old. Our parents, maybe retired, but they weren't going to live all that long. My generation is living 10 to 20 years longer than my parents. And you are going to live 10 years longer than that,
I think I'm
and
older than you think,
oh, I
Larry.
don't think
It's
so.
the
I can
cement.
tell. So it is a challenge. I mean, if someone retires at 65 and they've got 20 more years of life, what are you going to do for 20 years? How much satisfaction, purpose, and fulfillment can you get out of golf?
I think you're going to be really busy with that topic, because not only have you got many people retiring in the US, we've got lots of people retiring because it's sort of, in fact, the older generation makes up a bigger proportion of our population here now than it ever did. And
That's right.
I mean, I can't see myself retiring at
No,
65 or 7. I'm going to keep
no.
going until people get rid of me, I think, because
Right. So it's a matter of redefining retirement. And that's the name of one of
yeah,
my speeches. I call it Redefine Retirement. What's your encore?
yeah, I like
And
that.
yeah, it's interesting for a lot of people. A lot of people haven't thought about it. And
Yeah.
usually people don't think about it until they retire. And then they go, well, I'm just going to see how it goes. And for a year, they kind of see how it goes. And then they look for a coach.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. We've made a note of that. So leadership, retirement, you would also passion,
Passion.
fantastic, wonderful
Yeah, and
topics.
also entrepreneurship, or the
Entrepreneurship.
traits that in entrepreneurship, I'd like to talk about uh, the 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 bumpy road, what to expect, because there's a lot of
It's not smooth.
unexpected. Yeah,
It's not smooth sailing, absolutely. And we keep coming back to sailing, don't we? It's amazing.
it is. They're so similar. The traits that are needed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So you focused totally for a long time about, with that dream of sailing around the world. When you accomplished it, how did that feel? And what are you going to do now to match that achievement? That's a
I
big question.
knew this
Oh,
question was going to come.
well, I mean, what do you do next after you've done that? So tell me first of all how you felt when you accomplished it, and then what's next?
Yeah, when I completed the circumnavigation, it was it's hard to describe the feeling. It was fulfillment, it was satisfaction, it was relief. It was that feeling of achievement that you like standing on the gold medal platform in the Olympics or something, that you did it. And the culmination of 33 years of building up for this, and then realizing that we had made it, because most people don't make it around the world. It was quite self-satisfying. That was good. It wasn't what I was really looking for, which was self-actualization. It wasn't as high as as I really wanted. And what I found, well, for years after my return, I felt like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. I mean, because so much had changed, so much in me had changed about my outlook of things, the way I view material possessions. I mean, I found the happiest people in the world are the ones that don't have much. Yeah. So the challenge, and I was very aware of this challenge for me, is what's next. And I went in circles for years until a friend of mine who was a CEO called me up one day and he said, "Can I talk to you? Can you give me some advice?" And I said, "Sure." So I went into his office and I said, "So what do you need help with in your business?" He goes, "Oh, I don't need help with the business. I know how to run that. I want to know how you retired. How did you go from CEO to sailor? Because I don't know what to do when I retire." And that's when I thought, oh, well, I can help you with that. So I took a year off and I studied and I reverse engineered all that I went through in that process. And that's when I came up with my course, my video course, Sail into Retirement. And that's the big thing that I've created and it takes someone from, gee, I don't know what to do with my life, all the way through to here's my plan. And then I created that in a year. And then I started, that CEO told another CEO and told another. Before I knew it, I was coaching C-suite executives into retirement. So,
Brilliant.
that is the one thing that I have found is replacing the journey, because it gives me that self-actualization feeling that I'm part of something larger than myself, that I'm giving back, that I'm helping other people untie their dock lines and for them to move on to the next portion of their life. That gives me great satisfaction now.
I
So
can
it's not
imagine.
like, oh, climbing a mountain now will do it or something else. It is more internal and more mental. And it's quite nice. I'm enjoying it.
I love that. I love that. I love the fact that you found that self-actualization, and it comes back to what you did. The fact that you took that risk, you took that fear, you went off, you gave it all up, you went sailing, and now you're helping other people to make that transition. Isn't it amazing how it all comes round? It's great. I love it.
It is. But I had to search for that. I mean, there
Yeah.
were years of wondering, what am I doing? I thought, well, I could be an astronaut. I guess that could beat it, but
I think yes. No. William Shatner's done that now, hasn't he?
oh,
So
that's
there's
right. So that's out.
so he's yeah. So tell me, Larry, what takeaways would you like to leave our audience with? What are the big takeaways?
Um, big takeaways are about managing fear. That you cannot just plow through. I mean, you can't. A lot of people say just plow through your fears, make them go away. They don't go away. You can't. You can't tell a soldier on the field, don't be afraid. Just run into that machine gun nest. It doesn't. You are afraid. You have to learn to deal with your fears, and you learn to deal with it by recognizing when you're afraid and then embracing that fear, and that takes the power out of the fear. I would say on leadership, just the biggest one, that leadership is not telling. It really is selling. And the biggest one I think that I probably learned is that the only scorecard, in my opinion, that counts at the end is how much love you had in your life and how much love you gave.
Oh, wow. What a wonderful sentiment to leave us on. How much love you had in your life and how much love you gave. Larry, that's lovely. Yeah. You're a bit of a romantic. I like that. Thank you so much.
I have to say.
That's wonderful. Listen, I hope you've enjoyed yourself. The time has sped past.
Already? I've got another half an hour if you want to go.
Well, listen, I'm going to thank our listeners for listening in to the Speaker Show. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating on Apple Podcasts. And you can keep up with future episodes future episodes on the Speakers Associates website. And do get in touch with them in time to book Larry for your next event, because he might be off sailing somewhere. So you can get in there before he goes off sailing somewhere else. Larry,
Exactly.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Maria. I look forward to seeing you again soon.